Welcome to The Other Side, Mississippi Today's political podcast. I'm Jeff Pender. I'm joined here today with my colleague, Sophia Paffenroff. I can't say that real fast three times, Sophia. I'm sorry. It's early morning. And Taylor Vance. Taylor, good morning.
Morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. And today we have a special guest, first time on the show, I believe, Representative Kevin Felsher from Biloxi. Kevin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good to see all three of you, and happy Valentine's Day.
Sure.
I couldn't think of a better start to Valentine's Day for you than being with three outstanding journalists like us.
Maybe Sophia, but nothing says Valentine's like Jeff Pender and Taylor Vance.
Right. Representative Felsher, again, serves District 117 in Harrison County. You're from Biloxi. On the Golden Gulf Coast. He is vice chairman of the Public Health Committee and serves on too many other committees to name. It would be easier to name ones you're not on. You're on education, corrections,
tourism, peer, marine resources, and so on and so forth.
A busy
I think
person
there's about
these
10
days,
of them. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Look, one thing we wanted to talk about, something Sophia has written about, some really good information if you want to see that, MississippiToday.org. But your bill, House Bill 1063. Sophia, give us a little intro to that bill, and we'll let Representative Felsher take it away from there.
Yeah, so this is a big deal. This would be the first paid leave for state employees. I think before we get into details, one thing that I was wondering about, I think a lot of people might be surprised to know that we don't already have this in the state. Were you surprised to learn that, and what inspired you to author the bill this year?
I was surprised to learn it. You know, I did a lot of work with Speaker Gunn on his Commission on Life, and Speaker White was fully supportive of his work in that, and has kind of picked up the mantle and is carrying it himself. And we had discussions, and we thought this would be good policy in a kind of a post-Roe versus Wade era, where we could be there for families, and also as a retention and recruiting tool for our state agencies. As we know, we can't pay as much as the private sector, so this is one way that we can be offer a retention and recruiting tool.
Sure. Yeah. And so this would be 8 weeks for mothers and then an additional 2 weeks for fathers or secondary caregiver, right?
Yes. The terminology in the bill is primary caregiver, secondary caregiver because of legal reasons. Mm-hmm. But basically that could be boiled down to, I believe, mother and father, and it would be 8 weeks and 2 weeks under the House version. I believe the Senate version passed yesterday and is a little bit different than that. I believe they scaled it down to 6 weeks for the mother and nothing for the secondary caregiver.
And then can you just kind of go over examples of who would qualify for this? So I know that adoptive parents would also qualify, and any state agency employees, but not public school teachers under the House version.
Correct. So it would be for the birth of a child or the adoption of a child. And that would qualify you as long as you were with the state for 12 months. You cannot use it for any more than one time per 12-month period. And teachers, K through 12, and community colleges are excluded in the House version because what we did was we looked at who was actually state employees and who were not. And we kept it true to that. And K through 12 teachers are employees of their school districts. They are not employed by the state, nor are community colleges. They have their own taxing district and boards as well. So it is for state agency employees.
Are school districts, are they allowed to on their own to offer some type of paid leave program?
Well, Taylor, I'm glad you asked that. First of all, yes. Second of all, we even put in the bill that they may adopt this policy. We encouraged them to adopt the policy. What the House did not want to do is have some mandate from on high that the school districts and community college shall do, which is what I believe the Senate version says they shall do. And if I read the Senate amendments right, and I did kind of breeze through them, but I'm going to go back and look closer when they get over to us. I believe they mandate without funding. So if that's correct, then our school districts and community college would be mandated to do something that they didn't quite sign up for. So by the same token, from our perspective, this was a state agency, state employee bill, and we kept it true to form.
Okay, yeah. And given that these two bills, the Senate and the House version, will likely go to conference, would you not be in favor of including public school teachers?
Well, I think it's something we could take a look at. When you look at an intent of the bill, the intent of the bill was for state employees. And it's my position that we kind of stick to that, but I'm willing to look at it. I'm willing to talk about it. It's part of the process. And I believe those Senate amendments are in good spirit, and I believe it gives us something to talk about.
Funding wise, you mentioned what would be are there solid projections on the cost?
Another great question. So I'll give you an example, Jeff. Last year in 2024, this Attorney General's office, I believe, had 12 individuals take parental leave. And of that 12, it cost them no more money for them to do that in actual salary because the work was absorbed by their colleagues. Now, conversely, if we look at K through 12 education or a community college instructor, you would have to get someone to come and sub in and pay them outside of the leave you're offering. There would be an additional cost, and that would, I think, bring in some sort of fiscal note. And how much that would be obviously dependent upon how many people took it. I think the value of the leave itself is about $8,000 plus or minus. But when you tack onto that, just beyond the fact that it's pure leave, and having to pay an additional body to come in and substitute for that 8 weeks, that's an additional cost.
I would guess even in some other agencies, you're going to have to hire fill-ins, depending on the job, I guess.
It could be that you did, and I'm certainly not saying that couldn't happen, but I think it would be more the exception than the rule. I think the rule would be, as in most places, the work is absorbed and picked up for that 6 to 8 week period, whatever it may be, by other coworkers, and then the employee comes back and hits the ground running and everything's good.
And just real quick on the talking about teachers and pure state employees, the mechanics of this, would the local districts be the ones picking up the cost? I mean, unless y'all come up with some special
remember that the
appropriation.
House position right now does not include
sure,
that.
No,
but assuming,
when you look at the cost,
assuming a model to where the local districts would be included in it under the current amendments, as I appreciate them, the local districts would bear the cost of that leave policy, not the state.
And I know that you've talked about this before, how it's not just about the money, but it's really a health issue and a mental health issue. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I believe so. We've pushed pretty hard for some postpartum benefits and really try to focus on mothers and the children. And I think it's also why I push for the secondary care, primary caregiver, is because I think fathers are important in this. I just think you have a finite amount of time to bond with the baby and get close with the baby, and I think this is an opportunity for that. I think it's important that our state put value. Look, I think 36 other states are doing this. We're coming late to the party, and sometimes we do that, but at least we get there, and I think we need to get there.
Speaking of mental health, I know you have authored a lot of mental health legislation the last couple of years. Where do things kind of stand with that? Do you have any legislation pending this session, or how have some of your past bills sort of worked out with the implementation? Just, do you mind giving us a little bit of an update on?
Don't mind at all. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about in terms of improving our state's mental health system. I will tell you, first thing I want to do real quick is use some of my time to thank Isabella Taft, who used to be with y'all. I think she's with the New York Times now. She was instrumental in pushing very hard in a lot of the pieces that she did on the jailing of folks with mental health. Mississippi is coming a long way with our Department of Mental Health and with the reforms that we've passed so far with Chairman Creekmore. He's worked really hard, and we've tried to work as a team with that, with the Senate, with Senator Bryant. And what we've done is we've said, you're not going to hold folks in jail for being mentally ill. Being mentally ill is not a crime. So if they are violent or if they, a threat to themselves, you have to do what you have to do, but it has to be in a finite amount of time, and you're on record, and you have to sign an affidavit saying why you're doing what you're doing. And the point is, we're holding folks accountable, and it's working. Our chancery clerks, through another reform we passed, you just can't go commit someone so quickly now and have them committed to a community mental health center or a state hospital or anything like that. There's a better process for it, and the CMHCs have to do an assessment of the individual and ensure that they do have a behavioral health issue that warrants commitment. Those, Taylor, are some of the biggest things we've done, I think. And this year, I'm really passionate about a bill I'm doing for, we've lost 2 police officers to suicide where I'm from. And so I have a task force bill that will look at first responders' mental health needs from a PTSD and the suicide prevention model. So those are some things we're working on. Chairman Creekmore has a few other mental health bills dealing with transportation and some things like that. We're going to work every year in ensuring that our mental health system in Mississippi rises and keeps improving to where it's tops in the nation. That's our goal.
Speaking of Chairman Creekmore, I heard him, I believe, just yesterday on the floor, gave kind of an update to some of the things you and he have championed or whatever. And I won't hold you to the statistics he threw out, but it sounded like big improvement already in a pretty short matter of time as far as people not being incarcerated.
It's dropped drastically. I don't have the exact statistics in front of me.
They were double digits.
But
just
I
going
can
from
assure
memory.
you that it's measurable, it's being noticed, and it's all folks involved, even the ones that we had to pull kicking and screaming into this, are thanking us now.
Some other mental health stuff I've heard being debated. There's some talk. I believe I've heard it more on the Senate, but having Department of Mental Health with more oversight of the regional facilities. Is that something you have a bearing on yet?
Well, I'll say that I've did a hearing along with Chairman Creekmore in late in 2024 with our community mental health regions, and had them tell their side of the story. And there's 2 sides to it. Look, they're doing a hard job. We've had a huge push from the feds to go from a state institutional model to a community mental health model, which I love. But that takes time to absorb that and to get everything going. And I think personally, while not perfect, our community mental health centers are doing a great job in general, and there's always room for improvement. We have pushed them through legislation on reporting and some things like that. So I would take a good look at what I believe Senator Boyd and some others are offering from the Senate side, and if there's some merit to it. I think from the House perspective, Chairman Creekmore would agree that we could maybe pass something like that. But we want to be sure we're moving cautiously and not punitively.
A lot of other major issues swirling around right now. Wonder if we could just ask you some more general legislation stuff. Tax cuts, tax elimination. What are your thoughts on that? What are you hearing from your colleagues? I know the Senate has a plan out now. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a little bit of difference between our plan and their plan.
Just a little bit.
Quite a bit.
So I think our plan is about $1.1 billion net tax cut. There's about $321 million. We totally eliminate the state income tax, I think, by 2036 or somewhere in that region. And they just bring it down to about 3%, 2.99. We are adamant that we have to find a way to fund roads consistently, that each year it's not a hodgepodge funding, not a guessing game. And what we did with our tax plan at that 5% tax brings in $400 million to MDOT. That will be a constant source of revenue where we can go out and get federal.
And in increasing if gas goes up, right?
Absolutely. And brings in federal funds. We're losing a ton of money, according to Brad White, who runs MDOT, on the fact that we don't have the matching funds for capacity projects. So there's that aspect of it. And then the grocery tax, we bring it down to 4.5%, and then 2.5 eventually. They bring it down to about 5%, 5%. So, look, there's a big difference between the plans. There's no secret about that. But what I'll tell you, this year is different. There's a willingness to work together, I think, and I don't. In past years that I've been here, there's been a lot of tension. I don't feel it right now. Maybe it's coming. Maybe I'm naive, but I do feel like there's a spirit of, hey, we all want to cut taxes. How much taxes can we cut? What can we agree upon? And I think we're in a good place to talk about it. I really do.
What other things are you focused on, just more generally this session?
Well, the mental health issue for our law enforcement was one. A bill I'm kind of passionate about is a new kind of division of autism services. And I'll tell y'all that we've gone just since 2012 in about 1 in 72 being diagnosed with autism to today 1 in 36. And we have a crisis on our hands that not a lot of people realize, and really I didn't either until several constituents of mine called me and I met with. And here's where we're at. Throughout the state, in my opinion, we don't know what services we have for autism collectively. We don't know how to best get the folks there. And this division of autism will assess what services we have, how they're best administered, and what we need. And we can start looking at those aspects of autism, because right now we're leaving families to pick up the pieces of the puzzle, and it's not a good place to be in. We can do better, and it's my hope we pass that bill. I think something like 113 to nothing or something. It came out with a good vote, and I was pleased with that. And I think we had the support of Lieutenant Governor Hoseman and many, many senators on this. So I'm hopeful that'll become law.
One thing that seems very different this session from last session is Medicaid expansion. I remember last session there were press conferences every day, legislators were talking about it every day, and now it's just kind of the opposite. There's nothing. And I know House leadership as well as Senate leadership has said that, they want to sort of pause a little bit and see what the federal government, the new Trump administration is going to do. But I know you were pretty vocal, supporting an expansion bill last session as Vice Chair of Public Health. But sort of what are your thoughts now with this session?
My first thought is I agree with you. It's sort of been crickets on that front, which is amazing because last year it was at the forefront. But, again, in my 6 years here, which is not a long time, but I've seen year to year where 1 year something's a huge hot issue and the next year it's not. And I guess I'm sort of surprised that it's really dropped out of discussions completely. But I do think with the Trump administration coming in and our own Drew Snyder going to Medicaid, that folks want to see what they're going to do with the matches and how this is all going to play out. I think right now we're at a 7-1 match. There's been talk it could drop down to 5 or 4. Right. And so you could really be in a pickle if you make a move to do something.
Expansion aside, that would be.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a while since I looked at what each cent, what that match equals every time you drop it a point, but it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's
a lot of
usually money. Billions with a B when you. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And already Medicaid's one of our largest expenses, right up there with education.
A lot of healthcare bills going around this year. A lot of looking at changes to CON, PBMs. What are some of those that you've been involved in?
Well, involved in the scope of practice and the CONs with Chairman Creekmore.
Which scope of practice allowing nurse practitioners more autonomy. That passed this week, correctly?
It did.
House?
And basically that bill had a few components to it. It was nurse practitioners, CRNAs, which, are your anesthesiologist nurses, and also an AA program, which would be an anesthesiologist assistant. And these are folks who would work directly under an anesthesiologist as kind of a mid-level provider under them. And those were hotly contested issues. The CON.
The speaker mentioned that to us this week, that, phones ring off the hook.
Yeah. There's two things that will get your phone ringing off the hook, and that's healthcare and education. Yeah, big time. But the CON reform is needed. CONs came about in the late 60s, early 70s, I think. Even the feds now, through the Federal Trade Commission, Department of Justice, have called them anti-competitive and said there could be some antitrust issues with them. It's time, and we're doing it. It's time to take a look at them and see, especially on the appeals process, because it's kind of being abused in some cases where you want to come open a facility or do something. A competitor just says, I'm going to appeal that, and they tie you up for a year or more.
Yeah.
And then you're gone. You just can't withstand that, so you go to somewhere more welcoming. We can't afford that in Mississippi. We have an access to care issue, and we need all the good health care that we can get here, especially in places like the Delta where you have healthcare deserts.
You still, with that, though, I think we called it before, threading the needle. You don't want to allow people to come in and cherry pick and essentially siphon off all the profitable things from the local hospital, and now you've got no ER.
Yeah.
Is there a balancing act?
There is, and I think it was limited in the categories that we tackled this with. We're not going in, at 100 miles per hour, or more, probably going in at like 25 or 30. We'll see how we do with the things that we're repealing and raising the limits we've raised. And overall, I think at the end of the day, we have a product that it is a good product, and I think it's a common sense and measured approach to CON reform. And if we need further reforms after we pass this, and we can move toward that, we'll see how it goes.
Well, again, we know you're very busy. Committees have been meeting like crazy, and now on the floor, I guess we're at about the midpoint.
Yeah, I think our next deadline is March the 4th. To get the Senate bills that we get out of our chamber and back to them one way or the other. So we've got a few weeks to work on their products, and they have a few to work on ours, and that's always the fun part.
Yeah, this is when we see how much the other chamber likes y'all, and vice versa.
And then after that, it's time to set a budget.
Yeah.
So no rest for the weary, right?
Not at all. But look, this session, I will say, has been a lot better than last session.
Off to a little quicker start, I would say. It's maybe smoother start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've enjoyed this session. It's been a good session so far for me personally, and I think many of my colleagues. And we're just looking forward to getting some accomplishments that's going to move Mississippi forward, to be honest with y'all. That's I think, most of my colleagues' goals. What can we do to come up here and move Mississippi forward? And certainly in the healthcare arena, a lot of people are opposed to scope of practice and expanding that. I said on the floor, we're at 50 or 49 in almost every appreciable healthcare metric. 27 states are doing, I think, no collaborative agreement for nurse practitioners, and I think it's like 24 or 25 for CRNAs. The sky's not falling in those states. You're not hearing horror stories. So I think there's room for improvement, and I think we can shake things up a little bit and see what happens on that front. So I'll just say public mental health specifically, but public health in general are areas where Chairman Creekmore and I are really looking to make a difference and put Mississippi in a much better place, much like we've done with education, moving from 49 and 50 down into the 30s. And I think hopefully we can keep that moving to where we get in the 20s.
We really appreciate you coming in to give us this update on a lot of different issues, and hopefully we can get you back soon as the session continues on to give us.
First time, hope it won't be the last.
Well, I hope not either. I've always wanted to come and do this, so it's off the bucket list.
Good deal.
Thank y'all for having me.
Good deal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.